Hey everyone, good morning. It is 9:30 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. It's Innovation Fika with me, Donny. It's episode 200, and I'm at home, working from home today, preparing for the big launch of the new batch tomorrow at KTH Innovation. Anyway, as you come online, hoping that people will come online, as usual, add who you are in the comments, where you're from, and let's get the conversation started. I hope you can both hear and see me. I think this is going well. I'm on, I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and also on my Innovation Fika YouTube channel. Innovation Fika, Wednesday morning with a cup of tea today, actually. Cheers. Happy to see you all online. And as I said, add your comments in the feed as you come online, and we'll have a conversation about the whole thing. Today, episode 200, and anniversary episode with not bells and whistles and trumpets and fanfare, but at least with a book release, because I won't blame my sister. I will thank my sister for nagging me for years now to write a book about different things. And I've struggled to write a book about loads of different things. And then just by chance, I've been writing a lot of essays and talking a lot about change the last 2 or 3 or so months. And I just realized that, hey, I have a book. So I sat down and I just filled in this Word document with what was in my head. And what came out was a book. I mean, it's not a brick book. It's a short guide to how you can think in order to design change that survives the contact with reality. That's the whole point. Of course, basing it on, the whole old saying that no plan survives contact with reality, that kind of thing. Same thing with change. It's So I thought we'd spend this half an hour together, my Innovation Fika half an hour, talking about that, talking about the book, talking about change. And also I have I think it's about eight chapters, eight sort of topics about change that I feel need to be addressed when you're talking about change. So I thought we'd talk our way through them. But as I said, as you come online, please just say hi, let me know, and who you are. I know that a number of you have also signed up for join. I'm online on LinkedIn. Cool, very good. So change. Why this book about change? Well, the books sort of kind of came to me again. Christmas and New Year, all of these, we were talking about New Year's resolutions and all of these lists in the papers, how to succeed with your New Year's resolutions, blah, 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 blah. And I was sitting having a conversation with somebody, and I said, I don't like New Year. I think it's it's an overrated thing. It happens to be midnight, a night in a dark period, when it's snow and we're indoors and we're tired and we're completely, I would just come out of this horrible period of December when everybody's overworked and super stressed. And then we just sit down for Christmas and, eat and not do anything. That's an interesting comment there. Nothing to do with this one. Anyway. So then I started writing about the first thing. My first thing was all about. It's not about New Year. New Year's got nothing to do with New Year's resolutions about change. New Year is only a date, and it's usually a really bad date. It's a bad date based on that. As I said, we're overworked. We'll just come out of all of this stressful period. We don't have any money because we spent the last of our money on the Christmas presents. Hey, Eider, good to see you. Welcome aboard. Hi, awesome, wonderful having people on board as well. No, so my first sort of my first sort of take on it was New Year is not a good time to start because it's just a date. It's got nothing to do with timing and the right setup of either mental setup or it has a mental trigger, as in it's a new year. But if you look at the rest, it's not the best. So I mean, I have that as well. That's one of my chapters is timing, all about how do you time the start of your change to make it stick. And I've based it on my own experiences of changing everything from starting to train again and losing weight and stopping with nicotine and smoking when I was young, all of these things that I've done through my life, and all of the failures. I mean, I don't like change books where people say, oh, I'm so good, I did this, just do what I did and everything is perfect. I mean, I've tried changing, adding things, doing things differently, or adding things, and failed terribly at it, so I've also, that was a big part of me writing this short book, was, and talking about change, is that change is super, super individual, and one thing doesn't work for everyone. And it's, so I would say that one of my first sort of, one of my first main things is, change is not a character issue, because we tend to say that when people start something again, oh, I'm trying to lose weight and I'm always on diets, or I've tried to do this, it just doesn't work, doesn't stick. And then we start blaming character. We call it this, it's a character trait. You don't have character. You don't have a strong character. You're weak. And suddenly it becomes, a blame game that if I can't change, it's something wrong with me. And I am contradicting that. I am saying in the book, I am actually saying that no, we all have, it's like any skill, right? Be it kicking a ball or being creative or whatever you have. Everybody has some of it. Somebody have a natural talent for it, but everybody can get better at it. It's just a matter of finding yourself and your individual, your individual way of doing it. So the whole sort of first chapter is all about change is not a character issue. It's got nothing to do with strong or weak or anything. It's all about design. That's why the book is called Designing Change to Survive, Contact with Real Life, because it's about designing your own change so it does survive the contact with your real life. I mean, that's the whole point. But I think that's, exactly. Habit building. Coming back to that one. That's actually one of the chapters. Let's see here. Lena Gustafsson. Yes. Blah, blah, blah. Change. Exactly so. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to write the whole book as well. So the first thing is all about, change is not a character issue. We can sort of, everybody has a different sort of level of, okay, well, some people can, they can go out and they can sit down in ice and enjoy that because they're such strong characters. Other people don't enjoy sitting in ice and freezing their butts off. Even though, so it's all different. We all have different starting points. So with that said, and having that sort of out of the way, we can then move into designing change, which is, what I want to try and convey with the book is how do I design change in my life to make it work in my life? That's, kind of the whole point of the exercise. So that, and then we come to the, the second part. I'm running through kind of a couple of the chapters. As I said, it's 8 chapters. Habits, of course, is one of them. But we come to that in the end when we're talking about sort of how to change. But first, I sort of frame it a lot about 1, no, stop thinking about it as a character issue. 2, very important, change never happens in isolation, because people have this idea that, okay, I'm gonna lose weight, or I'm gonna stop eating this, or I'm gonna start doing that, or I'm gonna stop smoking, whatever it is. And then, they see that as an isolated thing, but they forget about the context of in which context will this change happen? Is it how will this affect work? How will this affect my private life? How will it affect my sleeping habits? How will it affect whatever? And then they introduce the change. They start January 1st, new year, and they just start something without taking the context into consideration. And then they run into it. And then suddenly, real life happens. They go back to work. They have, oh my God, the kids are not dressed and all that thing in the morning, and it's stressful. And before you know it, you kind of sort of fall back into the rut of the old behavior because your change was not designed to fit into your context. That's so again, before we even start designing, we'll come to the habits and that, but before we even start talking about habits, we need to start looking at how do we design everything around it, both mentally and also, and thinking about how we work contextually with change. So how do we actually, so look at, and that's comes then, of course, to the third part where, timing, the whole timing, the start of change and timing way through change is, timing is never neutral. So, okay, so January 1st or New Year's Eve. It's not about January 1st. It's actually about New Year's Eve, this resolution thing. And usually people say, next year, I'm going to stop smoking. Well, like next year is in 2 hours, dude. So are you going to stop in 2 hours or are you going to stop sometime next year? When are you going to stop? And then they have this very sort of kind of, not really clear idea of, and then they go, well, on Monday. And everybody picks Mondays. So, and I was like, but why on earth do people pick Mondays to start something? First of all, Mondays is probably the least most popular day of the week, right? So why pick a Monday? Why pick a Monday to start anything when you are already miserable about going back to work? You don't like Mondays. You're all tired. You had a hard weekend and whatever. I don't know. And then Mondays aren't your favorite day. It happens to be my favorite day, but that's a whole different discussion. So don't never start on a Monday, right? So timing is both about, okay, so you can't pick a date, but that date needs to be, again, contextually connected to your own life, on how you function. Like coming back to work after holiday, I never start on Monday. I start on Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. This last week, I started on Thursday afternoon, had a nice nice late morning on Thursday last week. And then I sort of did some work on Thursday afternoon. And then on Friday, I went into the office, spent one day in the office getting everything sort of organized, and had the whole sort of, oh my God, how does this work? Where does this thing go? And then on Monday, when I came back to work, then I was sort of, everything was sort of kind of cool, Same thing with the change. It's like starting on a day which is not optimal is not the way to start something. So, and timing is not only about when you start, it's also your sort of mental preparedness for that timing into starting as well. Because one way of thinking it is like, okay, well, when we were talking about context, how will this fit into my context? But also timing is, when will this fit well into my life? So maybe I shouldn't stop smoking, as an example. Maybe I shouldn't stop smoking under the most stressful time of the year, because it's going to be, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying it's double as hard, because you're adding more stress to the system than you already have. So for me, when I smoked when I was like a teenager, and I stopped when I was 20 something, early 20s. It was, I tried stopping in like super stressful. I was in the army and it didn't work. But then I did during a summer holiday when I was off work. Then things started happening. Then I had more time. I could actually address the whatever feelings of abstinence or need for something. I go out for a run. I could be all grumpy and bad tempered and everything like that, without it having to affect my workplace, which is another thing, which I also talk about in the book, is the whole part about the contextual part connected to timing. So if you pick a bad, you need to also have the context of your social setting. The social setting is important, because if you are introducing a change into your life, it will affect your mood, energy, whatever. And that will spill over into the rest of your life. So be it your workplace or your private life or something. And of course, people need to know about it. You don't need to, I'm going to change this now, everybody. It's like, no, it's just, you maybe in a nice way saying, hey, I'm trying to go through this change. So if I might be a bit, you might perceive me as a bit more short tempered or irritated, please, it's, I'll just, give me a signal and I'll walk away. Don't take it personal. It's just, but I'll be there. And as a manager, I of course want to know, or my colleagues, as a colleague or a manager, I want to know who is doing what as well, because I want to know that, okay, well, cool. I respect and I support your change because it's an important thing. However, we need to know about it so we can plan appropriately. I can't expect maybe your normal 100% delivery because you're all stressed up or focused or thinking of something else and you don't function 100%, which is normal because physical change affects mental ability a lot, and vice versa. So we need to be contextually open about it. Let's see here. A comment here from Farrell. We're kind of hardwired to look for safety, stability because of evolution, but it's not the same instinct getting in the way. Yes, exactly. That's the whole comfort zone thing as well. That's another thing. I think I addressed that in chapter 7 or something when I'm talking about wanting it enough and leaving the comfort zone. Is that we want the change, but we don't want to go through the process to reach it. That's another very big thing, is that, like, people say, oh, I wish I could play the guitar. And then I say, okay, well, play the guitar. He said, well, I don't know. I understand. So, well, go out, buy a guitar today. You can buy a cheap one. Doesn't have to be expensive. And then this evening, you spend 5 minutes. 5 minutes playing the guitar. It doesn't matter if you can't do it. You just hold it for 5 minutes. And then you do the same thing tomorrow, and then the same thing the day after. Maybe you do it, you don't have to do it 7 days a week. You do it 3 days a week, 5 days a week. And then I'll tell you, in 2 months, you'll be doing a chord. In 4 months, 4 months is nothing. Boom, nothing like that. In 4 months, you'll be playing your first song. Seriously, 5 minutes a day. That's all you need. But, people are not in the mindset of, they want the result, but they don't, want I wish I had this. I wish I could do this. Yeah, well, I'm not going to say go do, but it's kind of, yes, go do, kind of. And that comes to the part when we're talking about that and this whole motivation thing as well, because people have a tendency of saying that, well, I'm waiting for motivation. I've dedicated a whole chapter in the book about this. I talked about this on one of Innovation Fikas a couple of weeks ago. Is that motivation is a side effect. Motivation is, yes, the January 1st, the date, the vision of what you want to achieve. That might give you this boost of, I want to do this. That is a motivating feeling, and then you start, and it becomes boring, right? And the thing is, change has got nothing to do with putting the work in when you're motivated. Change has got everything to do with putting the work in when you are not motivated. The whole, celebrate the mundane. I think I had a thing on YouTube the other week when I said, celebrate the mundane days. Celebrate the days when you go back and do the work, even though you didn't want to do the work. That's what you celebrate. You don't celebrate the days when you are, on the top and you're fantastic and you. That will happen by itself, but it's when you actually go back again because you've said, I'm going to do this now. And we're talking about habit creation. Habits is the small, mundane, everyday tasks that we do that over time build a really, really strong result. So I will say, that it's the habitual thing is super important. Looking at and that's another part when it comes to the habitual thing, is another part of the book. Talking about the book here, but another part of this whole change thing is, I can provoke a bit and I can say, don't set goals. And what I mean with that is that people have a tendency of setting a goal, right? And it's like, okay, that's what I want to reach. There's my goal. But that goal says nothing about how to get there. It's only what I want to achieve. And so then goals have two big drawbacks. One, they're only, they're the end point, and they don't tell you how to get to the end point. That's number one. And two, when you get there, what then? You done? So people have this, oh, well, I'm going to lose weight. So I lost some weight and then I stop. I mean, and then but then I'm back up again. Then I have to lose weight again. And then it's this whole sort of yo-yo thing. Instead of saying, I want to live, I want to live with less body fat or more muscles or trimmer waist, or I want to be able to fit into a jeans size 32. That's more of a long-term lifetime thing. But however, but that's hard for people to frame, because we have this mental ability of perceiving, we can do, and that's another. I mean, I'm a lot of the things I'm writing about is based on other books and research. So I'm leaning heavily on other literature. I'm not saying I'm inventing anything. I'm just sort of putting things together in the way I see it. So I mean, the time frame of change is, people can usually do that's why you have these 30 days change your blah blah blah, or in this Sweden we had this training program, 16 weeks. Was it a TV program? Was it 12 or 16 weeks of it was called 16 weeks of hell or something like that. It was 4 months, and people went through 4 months of crazy training and weight loss, but then 4 months is kind of stretching it. 3 months, usually people can mentally fathom. 30 days, people can I can do 30 days. But the problem is that you get into this stop-start thing, instead of saying, I want to really change the way I live, or I want to be able to speak French. We can't just sort of do 2 weeks of French classes, speak French once, and then stop and say, hey, I can speak French. Well, if you don't continue speaking French, then you can't speak French. So you'll forget it soon enough. So after a year, you say, would you speak French? Well, I used to last year, but then I stopped, so I don't do it anymore. So it's, if you want to learn how to speak French, it's a lot about actually speaking French and getting to a point where you're, and then finding a way of how do I conversationally keep that going. Here we go again, Lena. When it comes to comfort zones and change, everybody has their own zones. So great change in companies a lot. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Lena. This is exactly what we're talking about. And this is, once we understand that, we can both respect each other's processes of trying to change things. We can help each other to change things as well. And if nothing else, we can understand why people are going through things. So that's a very important thing. So goal setting is interesting out of a perspective of kind of, setting up something. It will not tell you how to get there. I mean, at KDH Innovation, where I work, when we work with action plans, and people set goals. Yes, they set SMART goals. S-M-A-R-T, SMART goals. You know how to set a goal is S-M-A-R-T with the abbreviations. That's number one. But then that's only a goal. Second thing is goals. First thing is goals. Sorry. Second thing is actions. Which actions are you going to take to reach that goal? That can be transferred into what we were talking about Heidi before, the habits. The whole sort of habitual thing. And this one is good as well. Here, look at this. Aspirations are better than goals. I agree. Yes, perfect. So then we have goals, we have actions, and I always encourage the teams to have goals, actions, and challenges. And challenges are the things that you can ask for help for, because you need to be able to ask for help. So I'm trying to get people to learn how to ask for help. It could be help from my community. It could be help from my context. It can be help from my boss or my colleagues. In our case, it's you need to know what to ask your coach for. I'm trying to reach this. We're doing it by going through these actions, but we don't know how to cross this specific river. Can you help us with this? So, helping people through goals, actions, and challenges. So that's, a three-step process of how do I build a habit to reach a goal, and what do I need help with contextually from people around me. So that's kind of the whole setup when it comes to goals. And then of course you have this thing with, we're talking about it in the beginning, but this whole thing about people, somewhere along the line, there's also a trade-off, because people say, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do this. And then they don't. It's fine to wish for things, but the problem is when they start sort of hypnotizing themselves is that they are not good enough if they can't do that thing. But the thing is something that they don't really want to do, or they don't want to go through the process of getting there. They just would like to be it. They just want, again, the quick fix thing. They just want this thing. And then you could argue, well, then I don't want it enough. Because if you actually want something enough, then you're prepared to go through the hassle and the rigmarole of change. The problem is, of course, then the combination of the first and the last chapter is that when people want something which is so high that they need to really put a lot of effort into it, but they don't design their change in a way that suits them and their context, they keep failing. And then it comes back to it's something wrong with that. So, it's all about this, and that's what I'm trying to convey in this. It's not, as I said, it's not a brick book. It's like a collection of essays that I've been writing and talking about for the last, 3-4 months. I'm just trying to convey a way of thinking that, no, it's not a character issue. It's nothing wrong with you because you keep failing. In your words, you keep failing. It's a matter of, you haven't planned it well enough in consideration of yourself, how you work, how you like or not to change, the context the change is going to live in now and when it gets there, framing what it looks like when you get there. Is the context prepared for you when you have changed? One stupid thing is like people that are trying to lose weight have trouble because their spouse or their family or their mother or their whatever keeps on trying to get them to eat more. It's like, are you sure? Or the worst thing, please don't do this. The worst thing in my book is when somebody's actually trying to change their diet, they come to work with food, or they join the group that go out for the restaurant. Everybody goes to the pizza place, and this person doesn't want a pizza because they want a salad instead. And everybody goes, what do you mean you don't want a pizza? Or the worst thing is when people look at somebody's lunchbook and says, you're going to eat that? That's not the way to support people that are trying to change something. I went through this. I've had exactly that experience. I went through a weight loss, and I was eating so I was eating tuna fish and rice kind of things, things like that. And I had people looking at my lunchbox and saying, "You're only going to eat that? That looks horrible." And I felt like saying, "Look, you sit and you stuff your face with cinnamon buns every day at 3 a.m. and then you have a muffin and a cupcake or whatever. I have never, ever, ever commented on what you eat and how you eat. So I would appreciate if you don't comment on how I eat, because at least I'm trying to do a good thing here." I didn't say that, but it's Farhad here, good long comment. Asking for help is a very important skill, and I think most of the time it's underestimated. I like how Stephen Wenker and Jonathan Brill, leverage help, use your connections, control chaos, and know it. Exactly. Thank you, Farhad, for adding that. It's just exactly what we're talking about, because all of this, be it personal change, organizational change, nothing lives in isolation. Everything lives in context. And as I said, I'm not trying to invent a new way of thinking. I've sort of gathered my thoughts, what have worked for me, what has not worked for me, because I've tried and failed as well myself. And I put it all together in this collection of essays, and it will be released digitally, maybe even paperback. If, I don't know, we'll see, maybe a paperback. It would be cool to have my own paperback, but at least digital release in a couple of weeks. I'm getting it ready now. So that's it. And look at this, it's 10 a.m. Hey, Innovation Fika. Cheers, everyone. I hope, thanks for joining. I enjoyed everyone joining me today. Thank you very, very much for joining me for my Fika. Thank you for all the comments, Farhad and everyone else, Liana, and of course, Heider there. Okay, cool. Thank you, and have a wonderful week, and stay in touch. Let's see, next week. And this is episode 200. This is my 200th episode. Anniversary. So new year new year, 200 episodes, big start. And take care, everyone. Have a great day, and I will see you next week. Same time, same place. Innovation Fika. Bye for now.